Welcome to my Post podcast.
Black Jekyll hit his
Thank you.
hide,
It's
you
wonderful to be
kept
here.
your monster.
Thank you. It's wonderful to have you. You are a very talented artist, and I look forward to learning a bit more about your Substack art human relationship. Where are you in the world?
I live in Idlewild, California, and it's a mountain village above Palm Springs.
Oh,
It snowed last night, so we're
Oh.
covered in snow. There's pine trees and squirrels and everything, and I'm in a cabin.
oh,
It's got high ceilings, and I live underneath, so I'm at about 6,000 feet up. But in my backyard is a 9,000-foot granite outcrop.
wow. Do you
Yeah.
paint every day?
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
My life for the last several years is 24/7 art.
Congratulations.
Well, it seems that it's been my whole life that way. But, in my early 20s, I decided to follow my talent and be an artist. And then once I decided that, I grew up, I had a BMW when I was 18. So I grew up in a kind of wealthy lifestyle in La Jolla, California. And when I decided to be an artist at 20, I just said, I got to kiss all of that goodbye. It's all gone. I'm going to be living in poverty. I'll be living in, bad areas in, like New York City or something like that, just to save money, and money buys time to paint.
Yeah.
And so I've done that, for almost 50 years.
Wow.
So, and but it was a matter of choice. It's like, I'm choosing to do this.
Yeah.
It's for 2 years, I was mentored by a guy who was a PSYOP specialist during the Iraqi war.
Wow.
And he had posts, his name's Boone Cutler. And Boone created the Spartan Pledge. And the Spartan Pledge is that military people will take a vow or take an oath. They'll take a pledge not to commit suicide until they reach out to their battle buddy. And that's had tremendous success because you've heard that 22 soldiers commit suicide a day.
Wow.
And he set up this pledge, and it's only like 2 paragraphs long. And it's just been brilliant. And he had all these interesting posts and very cryptic messages and very interesting stuff that he would post on Facebook. And I say, who is this guy? He has stuff I want to know, because I've been living with the postmodern art world, which is cryptic and weird, and there's hidden agendas, and there's all kinds of weird stuff going on. And the art is a lot of it is just nasty, horrible stuff. So I've been wondering, like, what's going on with this stuff? And I thought, well, this guy Boone is going to have some answers for me about how to navigate and understand this manipulation. And so he mentored me, so I could pose all these weird questions to him, and we would have a discussion and talk about it. And it's interesting, he teaches by parable. He teaches by stories. So he never tells you what to do. So one of the consequences from that was I wrote my book, Evolution Through Art, which is a historical take on the innovations and de-evolution of art through art history. And I finished the book with some fantastic, brilliant artists working today. Did you see that sculpture, Leap of Faith?
Yes.
So I ended like with one of her works, Tanya Rager.
Yes.
So I had a very positive message in the book, but as it turns out, in history, the winners are the ones that write the winners are the ones that write the history.
Yeah.
So I wrote an art history in advance
Right. Great.
of our success.
Great. I'm curious about how you came to understand and distinguish postmodernism. Was it along your art journey? And
Well, I fortunately I got it really early. So at 17, I was a fine art major in college. So I started as a 17-year-old, and it was a postmodern education. And I had a very interesting uh, perspective on learning. So I allowed myself to be taught by postmodern teachers. I got A's in all my classes. My final was driving a Ranchero car. It's kind of like a station wagon without the top. It's open-ended in the back.
yeah.
And I put mattresses and clock radios and lamps and stuff, and I created a bedroom in the back of the car, and I drove it to the sculpture garden of the fine art department. And I only came up the idea, this was the final. I only came up with the idea that morning. So I let, 5 weeks go by, and I'm like, "Oh, I'm not going to worry about it. It's so easy to do this stuff." I borrowed a friend's car, threw all the stuff in, drove in at noon, and I got an A. And I thought it was the most ridiculous thing in the world. But I knew that I was understanding what they were trying to teach. But in the back of my mind, it's going, I can't wait to learn how to really paint. I can't wait to know how to paint a hand or, do a great job on the human figure. And they offered no figurative work whatsoever. And after 3 years, I quit that school, and I moved to Holland.
Wow.
I just got on a plane, went to Holland, and they had an art school there that had models 9 hours a day,
Wow.
6 days a week, life drawing. And on Wednesdays, they had 5-minute poses. So I would go have a newsprint, and at the end of the day, the newsprint was done with like 100 drawings that were done rapid. And that's how I learned.
Wow.
So I would just make art myself. Then I would take it home, paste everything up on the wall, and analyze it. And the school had no instruction. But just this comes back to your point that one of the safeguards of avoiding the matrix is to use your own eyes with reality. As a visual painter, is to actually look at reality. Keep always a connection to the reality around you, how things actually look. What is the light doing? You see an interesting phenomenon that excites your eyes, like, well, what I'm looking at it, what's going on here? And that tether to reality, I found, keeps people sane. So then you can have wild, wild imaginary ideas. As long as you have a tether to reality, you have like carte blanche to explore your imagination. But once that tether is cut, once you disregard reality and you disregard your visual perception, then you run into a psychological wormhole.
Yes. As you said today in your piece, psychopathy. I mean, it's yeah.
Yeah, and I had a eureka moment once. I was living in New York, and I'd been painting till late at night, but I drank coffee. So it's like I went to bed at 2 a.m., but then I got up at 5 a.m. wide awake. And I was living in Staten Island, so I got on the Staten Island ferry
Mm.
to go into New York, Manhattan, for breakfast.
Mm.
And there was the sun was coming up,
Wow.
and you could see the Statue of Liberty and stuff. And I was thinking, am I crazy? I've been working on this painting for 6 months, 16 hours a day. Been working on one painting, and I'm going, am I crazy? This is so, it's so wild. Meanwhile, I was watching all of the light vibrations of the rising sun on the water as we were moving, and how it was hitting the Statue of Liberty. And the colors, Statue of Liberty has this agua color. It's a turquoise kind of metal, patina. And then the light was hitting it, and it took on this golden green color in the highlights.
Mm.
And I said, Michael, you're not crazy. You're spending this 6 months, you're observing so many nuances of reality and refining it. You have a connection to reality. And I was only about 24, 25. And I said, that's it. I got this in the bag. Just keep the connection to reality, and you have no problem how wild your ideas are.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
I remember reading a piece of yours where you were talking about the inner experience and how you had your own back at such a young age. And I can see that that's been key for you to, I think what gets in a lot of people's way is their inner dialogue. It's the way they engage with themselves. And you seem to have had a really healthy relationship with your inner dialogue for a lot of your life. Am I
Yeah.
making an assumption?
No, no, that was a piece, like I said, I
Yeah,
went through like a crazy thing when I was 11 years old,
yeah.
and I had the friend who was a wonderful model. She died of breast cancer, 39. Oh, such a
Mm,
beautiful woman, just gorgeous. But she sabotaged herself unintentionally on everything. And she was a brilliant, beautiful, super talented actress, marvelous voice. Um, but she always found ways to sabotage all the positive things in her life. And it was very puzzling to me. Um, but it came down to, well, I didn't have the chance to talk to her about what was actually causing it, but I felt that she was damaged as a child, and she
yeah,
blamed herself.
yeah,
So she took responsibility for all this crap that happened to her and never got past that stage where, when I was under this barrage of ill feelings, really horrible feelings, of going, what's going on here? And am I the bad person?
right, right.
And then I really dove into it and going, well, what did I do that was so bad? I'm only 11.
Right, exactly.
What could I have done?
Broke your toy? Like, yeah,
Right.
yeah,
Um, but I
yeah,
went through it and finally came to the conclusion that every way I look at it, I'm doing okay. So it must be something else.
yes,
And that one little switch um, gave me a kind of self-esteem sense to follow my own path. And it has its, you make a big decision when you're 11, you're going to have some feedback where, when you're as an adult, you're not always right.
right.
Right. So when other people are trying to send you a message like you're being an ass, I had to recalibrate my thinking that it wasn't them that was the problem.
Yeah,
So I
right,
said, no, no, these are my chosen friends. I really love these people, and they're telling me something's a little bit off. Like, they're only telling me that because it's true. There's something wrong. So I'll
yeah,
listen to that. Um, but that initial thing as a kid of having it's not me that's the problem. And that served me extremely well.
yes, absolutely.
Also, an interesting thing is, because I just made the decision to be an artist, and I haven't stopped. and it's been rewarding and wonderful. My mother said I was the most stubborn kid in
Mm,
the universe.
yeah.
But out of 5 kids, I was the most stubborn. And I refused to do anything I didn't want to do. I
Mm,
refused, point blank. You can push me out of the car and I'll walk home. I'm not going, no. And I think there's something to be said for just following your own gut reaction, even if you're a bit in the wrong.
yes.
But you know, that's really, especially for being an artist, that's, you just got to go with your gut and you can't worry about other people.
Yes. Oh, man. I love that you've had that sorted for so long and have just been able to get up and get to the work. It's beautiful.
Well, thank
It,
you.
yeah. Know thyself, you know?
Yeah.
I had my decode done last July, by this really amazing astrologer who does all of it, the numerology, all of that stuff. And I mean, I've known my relationship to music my whole life, but I have gotten in my own way through I suppose like an imposter thing. I'm not, I just make shit up as I go along. So maybe because it's come so easily to me, I feel like that's less valid than someone who's actually done the theory and the training and the schooling, and so I've discounted
Oh,
it, right?
yeah.
It's ridiculous, but maybe it's come easily to me because it's what I'm supposed to be doing. Like, there's 2 ways to look at that. So, I've, since having my decode, fully embraced, "This is my purpose, this is what I'm here to do, and I'm just going to focus on it now." And since then, I have no obstacles. I'm doing what I can to make that the focal point of my day, and everything I do is in support of that.
Right, right.
So,
And that's the one piece of advice. Like sometimes in interviews they ask you what would you advise a young person who wants to be an artist?
yeah.
And my thing is always follow your talent. So if it comes easy to you, that's the way to go.
Hello.
No, because it means that whenever you have a problem, you actually eventually solve the problem without too much pain.
Right.
Um, you're struggling with something, but in the course of your day, because you have some natural talent, something magical happens. It may have taken 10 hours, but you can feel it. You can go, that was magical. And for people, and I've seen people that want to be artists that have no talent. I mean, really no talent at all. And I thought, oh, what a nightmare that will be for them. It's so
Yeah.
much better to go and look for where your talent is. And several people who have like gone to art school and kind of discovered that they didn't have what it takes by comparison and seeing what other people were doing, and in their own sense they knew that they didn't have the feeling. A lot of those people have gone on to become art historians,
Mm,
or they still got to use their love of art,
yeah.
but they channeled it in a different way, or become art dealers, and so, or art patrons. So it wasn't a waste of time, but they didn't end up becoming the artists that they wanted to be, but they still use their love of art to be in the art world or in the environment.
Yes.
Uh,
Yes.
and so, I mean, really, if you were to do real postmodern work like Marcel Duchamp's Urinal, the
Yeah.
toilet,
Yeah.
um, it should really be in a rat hole in some slum in New York, and it's filthy in there, and they have trash, and you walk into it, and the artist says, "Oh, look at me, I'm an artist."
Yeah, exactly.
You just go, "Oh, this guy's crazy,"
Yeah.
and he's a total loser and all the other stuff.
Yeah. If we were going to be
And-
real
but
about it.
but that's where the presentation matches the means,
Uh,
matches the ends.
I
So
really
that's what it
appreciate.
should be.
Yes, exactly. Without the construct of of the mind control,
Right, right.
right?
But that would be the authentic.
Yes.
The crazy artist just doing
Yeah.
whatever.
Yeah.
And
In fact, why even just use the toilet that's already still connected to the floor, you know? And in contrast to that, when I saw the Mona Lisa, I cried.
yeah,
I walked in I was 15 or 16. There's a pile of people. It's not like it was now. That was in maybe 1998. So it was more available even then.
right.
But I had a visceral emotional reaction to it, and yeah. So it is really amazing how our body can really speak to us in those moments of our experience of when something is resonant and when something isn't resonant.
I have a friend who was one of the um, curators at the Louvre, and he said, "Oh, you're in Paris. Come visit, and I'll show you anything you want to see in the Louvre." And so he took me, and he just pushed me out in front, right in front of the Mona Lisa, and he had people stand away from me,
Nice.
and I got to look at at her for about 5 minutes,
Wow.
but up close. And I was fascinated by her lips. They talk about her smile,
Yeah.
but technically, I was fascinated by the little bits of paint that rotate and curve over her lips. So he painted her lips in three dimensionality, but each little tiny mark of the paint was almost microscopic, was just gently rotating and around, and the light. And it was, I was like really impressive. And I thought how funny it is that I come away going, oh my God, her lips are amazing. Everyone talks about her smile as being amazing. But to me, it was like this technical masterpiece. And it was a great experience for me to
I'm
do
so
that.
glad to hear that it was.
Yeah. And also in that same trip, um, there was a portrait of Rembrandt's wife. And I was like, oh, I get to see this painting. And he wanted to move me along. He was like, okay, you've had your look. And I said, no, no, you don't understand. This is the first artwork I ever fell in love with
Oh,
as an 11-year-old.
oh my goodness.
So I'd seen it on the cover of a book. I was like, and I fell just
Oh,
like the earth moved, everything happened. I said, oh my God. And I was with my grandmother, and she could see that I was fascinated. I was staring at this book, and she moved over to the next window. We were out on the street, and so it was the storefront windows. She moved over to another one. I lost track of time. I lost track of time and where I was. And all
wow.
of a sudden I woke up out of a stupor after, staring at, and I looked over, and she had the most puzzled look looking at me. And then she turned her head to continue looking at whatever she was looking at, giving me permission that I could look longer at this painting.
Oh,
And on my 12th birthday, she gave me the book.
oh my
And it
goodness.
was the complete works of Rembrandt. And it was priced at $65 in
Ooh,
1960 something.
a lot of money.
A lot of money for a
Yeah.
12-year-old present.
Oh,
And so I look through that book every night.
but she knew. She
She knew,
knew. Oh,
she
that's
knew.
so beautiful.
Yeah, yeah,
Do you
yeah.
still have the book?
Um, well, I traveled a lot.
Mm.
So I would travel to Greece, and so I gave the book to my one of my dearest friends and collectors.
Oh, good. That's the second
And
best
and so
thing.
she has it,
Yeah.
on her coffee table and stuff.
Oh,
And
wow. I love that story. So you
yeah.
got to see it in person in the Louvre.
So I got to see it in person in the Louvre, and he wanted to move me along. He said, "I'm on a budget.
Like, no.
I gotta wait here, until I'm done." Yeah.
Oh, wow. How was that for you?
Um, it, it didn't have the same, it wasn't as startling as when I, being 11 and having this um, crazy transportation, mental transportation. But, and my familiarity with Rembrandt is so thorough, but I consider him the greatest artist that ever lived.
Really?
So,
Okay.
so it was like, oh, I get to see it in real life. Yes, yes, click, 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 check, check, check. And yeah, it's it's what it is. It's an incredible painting. And what's kept me healthy as an artist throughout all these things, I had this sense so powerfully that I knew what the standard was. So when someone was bullshitting me, all I had to do was recall the Rembrandt, and I knew that they were full of shit. They didn't know what they were talking about. So it safeguarded me from manipulators and imposters and people that don't feel things, and they want to take this young, passionate artist and direct him, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
Silly people.
Yeah. Yeah, it became a touchstone.
Yes.
Yes.
And so that combined, so as an artist, he had the magic and then perception of reality. Those were my two anchors. One of the very best in the world as an artist, and look to them to as a tutor in a way, and then using reality as a tutor. And I'm not religious at all, but to me, art is between me and God.
Yeah.
And um, and I'm not, and I'm an atheist, but it's the idea, it's in the creating of the art, it's between you and the universe.
Yeah. How long
With
did you live in New York for? Were you there for a good chunk?
a good chunk, I lived there 3 different times.
Okay.
So maybe like 3 years, 3 years, 3 years, something like that.
Yeah.
And I would, I would, go look at the galleries. And this was in, you know, postmodern stuff. I go to a famous gallery, and one was literally filled with someone hoarded stuff. So a beautiful gallery space, which is filled with stuff just piled in there and not curated, nothing. And
Wow.
I would come home to my studio and I couldn't function for 2 or 3 days. So I read a lot. So then I would read wonderful writers, and I would read a lot to restore my energy,
Yes.
restore my sense of what I wanted, and be inspired again. But
Yeah.
so that was a tough rub, to go out in New York and do my due diligence and then be so disgusted by what I was seeing. And then I'm a sensitive person, and so I kind of just learned to navigate that without um, uh, I learned to really just start to create my universe.
Yeah.
So, oh gosh, do I want to go into New York and spend, you know, 2 hours getting there, or an hour getting there, getting ready, going around, and then being depressed by how awful the postmodern stuff is, and also being aware of what the messaging was, what the propaganda is, how much the artist knows about aesthetics. I could see all that stuff.
Yeah.
And I'm saying, this isn't worthy of my time.
Yeah.
I've been blessed because I also never felt what a lot of figurative artists in the last few decades go through, is that they feel that they're old fashioned.
Of course. Yeah.
So they go to a museum and all they care about is seeing the Rembrandt, or seeing the Da Vinci, or seeing, a classical painter. And but I never ever felt that. And I think it's because I didn't have a formal education. I went to this free academy where I was perceiving things. To me, I was like, no, I'm dealing with reality, and it's between me and reality. I'm not copying anyone. I'm not emulating another artist. I'm having my feelings and my passion, and I'm making the work. And I thought, no, this is the real deal. This is where it's at. So I never felt old fashioned.
Yeah.
And I can remember people commenting, said, oh, you're a classical artist. And I would just look at them with a lot of disdain that they had no idea what they were talking about.
Yeah.
Oh God, you don't know. Oh, but I want to come back to something that um, it's super demanding of my aesthetic, but I enjoy it. And the reward is huge, is that I balance my intellectual thought and criticism and all of that stuff about art, technique, intellectually, how would I teach it or whatever, all of that stuff. Then I have my emotional, passionate world. And then I love the science of visual perception, the sensuality of it, but also the science of it. So to me, I have all those voices in my head. I have about 12.
Mm.
Like I have the general, and I have the wimp, and I have someone who's complaining, and then I have, um, uh, an intellectual person in there and a passionate person. But while I'm painting, is that I want every single one of those voices on board, 100%,
Wow.
100%. So the technician has to go like, oh God, I love this. That was just amazing. And then to have the emotional person going, yeah, yeah, yeah. But I worked my ass off to get to the point where, like, I would do a painting and I'd say, oh my God, the ear is in the wrong place. You have to move it. You have to move it 1/16 of an inch, but you have to move the entire ear that you just
Oh,
spent 2 weeks painting. So you have to
wow.
erase all of that or paint over it or figure out how to get over it to just move the ear. And that was so painful, and it would maybe take me another month of work. But I followed through with all of that. So it didn't matter what the voice was. If it was not on board, I'd say, it's the truth. It's a horrible critic inside there, but
Yes.
they've got it. So I would follow through. And it was either an emotional problem, a technical problem, or a sensory problem. And so that's where all my knowledge is coming from now. I've actually done the work and put in the time. And then I'm really happy with the results I have.
Well, and isn't that the key? Like that resolution again of coming back, because if you weren't to move that ear, you would never be able to look at
Oh
that
God, that would
piece.
bother me for the
It
rest
would
of my
bother you
life.
forever. You wouldn't be able to sit and look at it with a clean, peaceful
Go,
mind.
go.
I know and you know that, and so you're willing to put the effort into getting to a place where you can be at peace with it and actually just sit as like you can appreciate it when you look at it.
Well, that's also another part that not everyone can do, but it takes an abundance of time.
Yeah.
I'm working on a painting, and it's a couple, and they have their arms raised. I don't know if you can see me, but they have
Yeah.
their arms raised like this. And
Uh-oh.
I have to raise his arm by a little bit more than a third of an inch. Oh, the outline. I'm gonna have to raise it up and extend it just a little bit to give it that enthusiasm that I want to have.
Ah,
So instead of it being just a formal gesture, it's a gesture that people feel,
yeah.
I can feel it. And
Wow.
I've got it all in charcoal. I've got the charcoal changed. So I didn't shadow it in, but I just moved the contour line. But I have left it alone for the last month. I haven't touched it. I'm like,
It's
oh, do
on
I really
pause.
want to do this? So I mean, but it's a change I will make. But it means that it's going to be about 3 weeks or 2 weeks of work.
Right. What
So
else is life for?
I'm just double checking before I dive in.
Incredible.
Yeah,
See, and I love that. I love that wisdom you have, that you just know. You know what needs to be done. You also know that you're going to wake up one day and it's going to be the day that you feel like doing that and you do it.
right, right, right,
Like it's coming.
right. But I'm still, slightly on the hedging.
Okay.
But I'm saying that's part of the process I go through.
Gotcha.
And meanwhile, instead of doing that, I've been dedicating my time to getting the revision of my art tutorial book
Yeah.
done.
Is that what you've been posting the pages from recently? Is from this new book that you're doing?
Right. Well, it's a revision of the book.
Okay. Yeah.
So I wrote the basis of the book about 20 years ago, and I've acquired a lot of skills about writing since then.
Uh,
And so, I was looking through the book and I said, oh, this is really good stuff. This is important information. And I know now how to communicate it better,
mm.
both visually, like to give examples that make it explicit.
When did you first discover that Substack was actually going to be a viable outlet for you as a painter? When did you join and when did you realize that you could actually use it to serve your art?
Well, I tried Telegraph,
Telegram?
Telegram.
Yeah.
So I tried Telegram, but it just felt unnatural and a bit awkward. And then I read some disturbing news about it, as
Yeah.
being one of these intelligence collection things. And
Right.
uh, Demi and I have a mutual friend,
Okay.
and we were we were discussing like new formats or where could we go. And I think she had trouble with Twitter,
Hmm.
and so anyway, we discussed it, and then Substack came up. So I think that was about a year and a half ago,
Okay.
year and 4 months ago. And I still didn't know how it worked, but I uploaded all of my essays that I've written over the last 20 years to from my WordPress, and I moved it to Substack just to do it. And but it was seeing how Demi from Starfire Codes, seeing how she navigated through it made all the difference for me.
Wow.
So it became a really wonderful place to have connections and family and meet people like you, and the authenticity, and and I can feel like this whole growth thing, like if you grow, everyone you touch grows a little bit as well.
Yeah.
And when I saw an insight that I didn't know about before, but I would like add it to my arsenal of of tools, and I'm seeing how what is it, rhizomatic?
Yes.
Rhizomatic,
Rhizomatic.
where someone does something and something grows here, and then that seeds something over there, and then
Yeah.
and I can really feel that energy going,
Yeah.
and it's inspiring me to do like for me to do an essay with footnotes. It's it's hard work
Yeah.
and research, and you can't cheat, and it's really scholarly.
Yes.
And I do like I do like scholars, real scholars. I do like them. I like how they're doing, but I never felt that it was so much me. But oh, from working with the PSYOP guy, the PSYOP specialist,
What was his name again?
Boone Cutler,
Boone Cutler.
the Spartan Pledge.
Yes.
What I learned from him was, for example, so I wrote that art history book, Evolution Through Art. I footnoted the hell out of it. The index is really, really good, really well done. And I'm like, what am I doing with all this crazy stuff? And well, I've got a book called Evolution Through Art. So come on, just grin and bear it, do the work. But since I'm an outsider, I'm not part of the art world or any other organization. The better you footnote, the better you index, the better your grammar is. Like I had 6 beta readers and 2 copy editors for the book to protect me
Hmm.
to do it. But all of that work acts as a psyop. All of those things are giving you a reputation of a standard that's really high. So instead of so I stopped seeing it as a negative or a time-consuming thing. I saw it as a weapon to get people to fortify my reputation in lieu of being famous or in lieu of being already accepted by museums and things like that. I was setting a standard just by myself with the help, I mean, with the help of people, but it's a way of when people then look through the book, they become impressed.
Yes.
That's a really good index.
Yes.
Someone spent really time to do that. And like in the lessons in writing the book is, you know, like on Word, you can pick a word and then it will automatically index all of those words. Like if you have Da Vinci, then it will automatically do every time you mention Da Vinci, do it.
Wow.
But you can't do that. You can't cheat. You have to go one by one. Oh, I mentioned Da Vinci on this page, but I'm specifically talking about the Mona Lisa.
Wow.
So let's make that a separate index under his name.
Wow.
So you have to go one by one. And that's how the pros do it.
Okay.
And then so once people, so a pro will be looking at my index going like, he knows what he's doing. So that
Right.
is, so I'm going to give him the benefit of the doubt when he's red pilling me.
Yes. Yes. It
So
validates you.
right. So that article from today was totally red pilled.
Wow.
To talk the way I did about abstract art was crazy. Totally a red pill. And just bombing people with like what you thought may be wrong.
Yeah.
But then in doing the footnotes and the indexing and making sure no typos and all of that crazy stuff, it will help them accept a red pill.
Yes.
But if you're sloppy and it doesn't work, and so that's
Yep.
but I learned that through PSYOP.
Right.
How do you win the hearts and minds of people? And this is one of the ways is by how you present it.
Yes. And there's an integrity to that, you know?
Yeah, yeah. That's also the trick about going back to reality.
Yes.
It's
Right.
a real person saying
Yeah.
this. And oh my God, they're an independent as well. They're not beholden to any advertisers or anything. It's like, so they're telling me. So it's like, oh, that sounds really good. And then you see who they are, and then like, wow. So, so that stuff from the PSYOP has been really, really important for me to learn. And Boone's such a good guy. He came out with the 5th generation warfare books.
Okay. I'm not
They
familiar with those.
oh,
I
he's got 2 of them, and they're co-authored by Michael Flynn.
mm. Okay. Why do I
So
know that name?
Michael Flynn was the guy who's intelligence, military intelligence, and part of the Obama administration
Okay.
tried to bankrupt him and destroy him.
Okay.
And, you know, well, anyway, but he's a general that has intelligence expertise. And the books by Boone and him, there's two so far. And they're these little square books
Mm.
that are military-like guides, but it's geared towards citizens on how to understand all the manipulation and psyop going on today,
Wow, great.
and how to protect yourself, how to combat it, but also how it's working. So it's going through all of the propaganda from the Chinese, the Russians, from the Americans, everything, and how they're working and how, but it's done all facts. No, it's not in prose or poetic. It's just like point one, watch out for this, A, B, C, D, and then, you know,
Awesome. It's a
and
manual for how to
it's
not be
to wake up.
propagandized.
Yeah, this is what's going on in the world today. And it's called fifth generation warfare.
Great.
So they talk about, we're stuck on warfare being third generation warfare was when you bomb people.
Right.
But the fifth generation is going into the psyop territories of how they're manipulating
All
the media
mental.
and
Yeah.
all of this stuff. But it's all factual. It's all like a soldier's manual. Like,
Right.
this is your homework.
Yes.
And they actually give you homework.
I love they good. 'Cause we need practice. Well,
What did you learn from this chapter?
amazing. Exactly. That's so great.
Yeah. And it's positive in the sense it gives you weapons on how to combat it as citizens. And I've been actually seeing the influence of that with
Wow.
many
Really?
independent journalists are now discussing it, and I can see they're fortified. They feel like they're
Mm.
empowered.
Wow.
Late last night at 2 o'clock in the morning, I stretched the stretcher bars. I created the stretcher bars for my next space painting, which is 64 by 48 inches. And it's a couple leaping through space
Mm.
with their hands clasped together, and they're full of joy. They're just really happy. It's like a starburst
Wow.
of a couple, and they're flinging themselves out there, and they don't care what they look like or anything. They're just having a ball together. And so I'm preparing that canvas today, and so I'm going like, I just wrote a really difficult piece, and I'm so excited and jazzed for my next painting. I'm just over the moon. So I'm doing something right,
Yeah.
and I'm happy, and I feel like that the article was a voice for justice, for fairness, and I was happy with the responses. I was going like, oh, I'm so glad they got the point that I was trying to make.
Yeah.
I was trying to
Good.
make this point, and I was going, it's such a hard point to make. I hope I succeeded. But um, but instead of being pulled down by that negativity of the content, it's a tough article to write. I mean, imagine people reporting on concentration camps or horrible things with vaccine injuries, or horrible stuff.
Yeah.
How do they maintain their sanity? How do they
Yeah.
maintain mental health? So I seem to have found the right balance
Yeah.
of my creativity is through the roof, and I'm writing. Um, well, I'm also writing the tutorials, which are all positive. It's all super positive about how things are solving problems and energy, and but
Yeah.
it it, it it's a tricky balance.
It
But
is.
you have to have the awareness saying, oh my God, I would love to help uh, uh, children that are in foreign countries or something, and then you find it you just kill your energy if you don't have a way, if it's not feeding you in a great way,
Yeah.
it's a dangerous place to be in.
It is. And I've thought a lot about it. And I think when we're living in a state of reaction, we aren't creating. And I really do see that
Mhm.
creating
Say that
is
again.
when we're living in a state of reaction, we're not creating.
So you're just reacting on whatever is happening.
Yeah.
Turn it this way, turn oh,
Yeah. Oh,
happened
oh
over
my
there,
God. Oh. But
which is also a propaganda tool.
well, it is.
To keep you engaged and busy and
Absolutely
worried.
distracted and, disconnected. And I think, and that's why it functions so beautifully as an antidote is to actually take the reins and create whatever your medium is, whatever your talent is, create and connect. I think this combination of connecting with each other in this rhizomatic network, we're supporting each other, we're making our work, we're putting it out there. I really do feel more and more like that's functioning as the antidote, and I keep using that word,
Right.
but to this active oppressing force that we're up against, that's really trying to get us distracted away from doing that and tapping into the power of this network that we're creating together.
Well, I think the best way of looking at all the Substack and the Substack writers that I'm coming across that are really wonderful, and they're just solitary voices, um, without a huge network or anything like that. But they're sowing the seeds,
Yeah.
and that's like my experience with Substack is now. Oh, we've been so bombarded by um, propaganda that we're not used to hearing the truth.
Huh.
We're not used to hearing authenticity. When we turn on the news, the media, super branded people,
Yeah.
it's all this packaged stuff that's not real.
Yeah.
And so on Substack, I got to feel the contrast so intensely
Yeah.
that it's very, very empowering.
It's very nourishing.
Very nourishing. It's like, and now it's like I'm making a fun, like anyone who's part of anything that's official, I just laugh at them,
Yeah.
saying independent stuff is the future.
Yeah.
This brand stuff that you're working for, this organization or this foundation, it could be taken over by the CIA, if not already.
Yeah.
Hopefully, we're entering an age of independence.
Yeah.
So an age of independent creators and scholars and independent scientists that are not part of a pharmaceutical company or something like that.
Yeah.
So I hope that that's where we're heading.
Decentralized.
Totally decentralized, but for independence,
Absolutely.
100% independent, and that's when you're going to get the real deal.
Yes.
And people talk about the social media and online and all these program things and the head masks take you in 3D worlds and stuff.
Mm.
And I think the future is that people are going to just say, you know what, it's nice to have internet and connection and family there, but I want the real deal. I need to go take a walk. I need to go look at real life. I need to
Yeah.
have a real friend or anything like that.
A real hug.
They need to go the independent route.
Yeah.
Just tell all these people to just shove it.
Yep.
They want to manipulate you and change you, and they don't have a clue.
I love it.
Oh, good.
I love it. I'm with you on that. Absolutely. I'm going to ask you one more question just because I'm curious. Do you paint to music?
Yes,
Yeah.
absolutely. Um, I have trouble writing to music.
Yeah.
The conceptual words in my head, that's a little trickier. But painting, I've I've had the luxury, I get to listen to music 12, 16 hours a day.
Yeah.
And most of it is classical, opera, Puccini. But I have playlists. like Ella Fitzgerald and Tina Turner. And I have playlists from the 90s and I have playlists from the 50s,
Yeah.
the crooners,
Love it. It's always a good vibe.
uh, uh, Nat King Cole and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So I have music that I grew up with. So
Yeah.
from the 80s and the 70s and the 60s. So I have playlists that kind of make me feel like a kid again or a teenager. And
Yeah.
then, but most of the time it's classical music that's very, um, it's just very soothing to my mind's energy. My favorite vocal artist is Leontine Price,
Okay.
the black opera singer.
Okay.
She's in her 90s now, looks fabulous.
Wow.
And her advice was to love your voice.
Oh, that's
And
beautiful.
and and so I think following your talent, loving what you do is just going to fuel you for the rest of your life. You can't go wrong. And it is a standard because if you don't love it, then it's like, well, I've got to go fix this. I got to go figure this out.
Yeah.
But if you can love your work and feel it, that's just pure gold.
Yeah.
And it will, you know, it'll be great. Um, the one other bit of advice is, if you want to be an artist, you have to be careful of your responsibilities. You have to be careful what you take on.
Mm.
And you can't, it's your passion and your vitality and your creativity is not something that you can abuse.
Mm.
So at one point, I cut my expenses by 80%.
Wow.
I was living in LA in a big loft, didn't like it there. And I said, what the hell am I doing? And so I just cut my expenses by 80% and I ended up here. And so I think really being conservative with your finances so that you don't have it hanging over you every single month or
Yeah.
stressing the hell out of you. And it's a sacrifice. It just means that you don't get to have nice things, or you can't go out to eat often or whatever it is. But if you want to be an artist and independent, it's a huge undertaking. And finance, it becomes a big part of it. And then, really doing everything for love.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
and it will take you to, you will find the right people and have a really rewarding long-term life.
Beautiful. I
Okay.
love that. It's great advice.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. It was great to meet you and speak
Yeah.
with you and learn more about you. It's great.
Likewise.
Yeah.
Likewise.
Beautiful. Much appreciation. And we'll see you on the flip side.
Yep. Okay.
Okay. Bye.
Bye.
Like Jekyll hid his hide, you kept your monster locked inside till a trigger tripped your rage.